There's a silent war happening in your brain every single day, a war between your impulses and your potential. And this war resets every 24 hours. Most people never realize that the way they spend a single day, how they wake up, when they eat, how they handle stress, is actually shaping the architecture of their brain and nervous system. But the truth is, you don't need a year to change your life. You need just one day repeated with awareness and precision. That's the power of the 24 hours. Let's start with your mornings. Within the first 90 minutes after you wake up, your brain experiences a spike in cortisol, a hormone most people associate with stress. But in the early hours of the day, cortisol acts more like a natural caffeine. It wakes your brain up, enhances your ability to focus, and sets the tone for your mental energy. If you waste that window by lying in bed, checking your phone in darkness, or skipping hydration and movement, you're robbing your brain of its most productive state. However, if you get sunlight into your eyes, yes, actual sunlight, hydrate, and move your body even briefly, you tell your nervous system, let's activate. That one habit alone has the power to increase your energy and cognitive performance throughout the day. Now let's talk about dopamine, the molecule of motivation. Most people chase dopamine through instant pleasures, scrolling, junk food, constant entertainment. But what they don't realize is that these actions hijack the brain's reward system. Over time, this leads to burnout, depression, and an inability to feel pleasure from normal life. The 24 hours teach us to delay gratification, not to deny pleasure, but to build sensitivity to it. When you earn your dopamine through effort, like exercise, learning, or focused work, your brain becomes more resilient. It starts rewarding you for the right things, not just the easy ones. Another critical rule is emotional regulation. Our brains are poor decision makers in emotional highs and lows. Whether you're ecstatic or furious, that moment is not the time to act or respond. The 24-hour pause, giving yourself a full day before making a serious decision or sending that impulsive message, allows your nervous system to return to baseline. Once the limbic system calms and the prefrontal cortex re-engages, you think more clearly. You respond rather than react. That one-day buffer can save relationships, careers, and reputations. Let's shift to sleep. Sleep is not just rest, it's a complete neurological reset. During sleep, your brain consolidates memory, balances neurotransmitters, and flushes out toxic waste. If you go to sleep at random hours, stare at screens late into the night, or consume caffeine too late in the day, you're disrupting your circadian rhythm, a powerful 24-hour biological cycle that dictates everything from your mood to your immunity. One of the most powerful things you can do is anchor your wake up and sleep times consistently. This alone can regulate mood, improve memory, and boost hormonal balance without a single supplement. Next comes adaptation. Whether you're training physically, mentally, or emotionally, your body adapts in 24-hour increments. Every good stressor, like a hard workout or deep work session, only becomes growth if followed by recovery. Without recovery, there's no adaptation. Without adaptation, there's no growth. That's why your nutrition, your sleep, and your stress management across each 24-hour window determines whether you're evolving or just exhausting yourself. Lastly, you need to understand the power of self-assessment. At the end of every day, reflect, not with judgment, but with curiosity. Ask, did I align with my biological rhythm today? Did I wake with light? Did I earn my dopamine through effort? Did I delay emotional reactions? Did I move? Did I rest? That review process activates the brain's executive functions, the part of you that improves over time. This is how you shift from living reactively to living intentionally. In conclusion, your nervous system is designed to reset every 24 hours. Every single day is a new chance to master your chemistry, your emotions, and your energy. You don't need more time. You need more precision with the time you already have. These 24 hours are not hacks. They are hard science. And when you begin to live in sync with them, you stop chasing life and start directing it. The rules are already at work in you. The only question is, will you let them run you, or will you run with them? Every single morning, Your brain enters what neuroscience refers to as a golden window, a short but potent time frame within the first 90 minutes after waking, where your mental clarity, focus, and drive are biologically primed to perform at their best. This window is not just psychological, it's deeply physiological. Upon waking, your body releases cortisol, a hormone most people misunderstand. While cortisol in excess throughout the day can be harmful, this early morning cortisol spike is beneficial. It heightens alertness, increases dopamine receptor sensitivity, and prepares your body for the challenges ahead. This window is a neurological invitation to get ahead of your day, not fall behind it. But here's the problem: the vast majority of people waste it. Instead of aligning with this biological rhythm, they reach for their phones, check emails, scroll social media, and flood their eyes with artificial light in a dark room. This blunts the cortisol rhythm and creates a sluggish, dysregulated brain state that lingers throughout the day. Your dopamine system is dulled, your circadian rhythm confused, and your mental performance flatlines. But when you understand the brain's golden window and structure your habits around it, you begin to unlock levels of focus and energy that feel almost effortless. The very first thing you should do upon waking is expose your eyes to natural light, not your screen, not a lamp, actual outdoor sunlight, even if it's cloudy. The photons from the sun hit specialized cells in your retina that signal to the brain, day has begun. Prepare to focus. This sets your circadian clock and optimizes hormone flow for the entire day. Movement matters too. You don't need a full workout. Just 5 to 10 minutes of light physical activity sends a powerful signal to your brain. It's time to mobilize. Pair that with hydration, around 16 to 24 ounces of water, and you've just activated 3 of the most essential biological switches in your system. These micro actions compound. They influence your motivation, your emotional resilience, and even your capacity to learn. There's also a neurological shift that happens when you focus during this window. Your brain produces acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter that sharpens attention and increases neuroplasticity. That means your ability to learn, retain, and adapt is higher during this period than almost any other point in your day. This is the time to do your deep work, to make decisions, to plan. If you waste it on trivial distractions, you're not just losing time, you're squandering a state of mind your biology worked hard to produce. Once you recognize the existence of this golden window, you stop treating your mornings like something to survive and start treating them like the high-performance tool they are. You begin to shape your thoughts, your schedule, and your focus to fit that peak neurological state. And slowly, the quality of your mornings begins to reshape the quality of your entire life. Dopamine is the brain's currency of motivation, but it's also the most misunderstood molecule in modern life. Most people believe dopamine is about pleasure. It's not. Dopamine is about pursuit. It drives desire, focus, and energy toward achieving a goal. And every 24 hours, your brain recalibrates how much dopamine it can release and how sensitive it is to reward. This is where most people unknowingly fall into what we call the dopamine trap. They spike dopamine early in the day through social media, processed food, entertainment, or compulsive texting. And the result is a crash that destroys motivation for real, meaningful tasks. It's like burning all your fuel on the driveway and having nothing left for the highway. This trap makes ordinary life feel dull. It trains your brain to need constant stimulation to feel anything. But here's the critical insight. Your dopamine system isn't broken. It's just been hijacked. And it can be recalibrated every 24 hours using what we call dopamine discipline. Dopamine discipline means delaying gratification and earning pleasure through effort. When you choose hard, focused, meaningful work over cheap stimulation, your brain actually begins to increase the density of dopamine receptors. That means it becomes more sensitive to reward, not less. You begin to feel satisfaction from smaller wins, deeper effort, and even routine progress. And this sensitivity is what builds long-term resilience and drive. But the reset requires intention. It starts with eliminating dopamine stacking, where you layer multiple sources of stimulation at once, like watching YouTube while eating junk food while scrolling TikTok. This floods the system, trains your brain to expect constant novelty, and leads to emotional flatness, boredom, or burnout later in the day. Instead, you start your day with low stimulation behaviors that are aligned with your goals: movement, sunlight, hydration, and then focused work. This rewires your reward circuitry. You teach your brain that effort leads to pleasure, not just consumption. That is the secret. That is dopamine discipline. Even better, your dopamine tone, the baseline level of dopamine, rises over time with consistent effort. It's why disciplined people seem more content and energized. They aren't better than others. Their brains have just adapted to delayed rewards. They've exited the dopamine trap and entered a cycle of healthy, sustainable motivation. Every 24 hours, your brain gives you the chance to reset this circuit. But it only works if you stop feeding it artificial highs and start earning your dopamine through what matters most. Cortisol has a bad reputation. It's often labeled as the stress hormone, and most people think of it as something to avoid. But that's only part of the story. In truth, cortisol is one of the most important hormones for wakefulness, focus, and sustained energy. If it's timed correctly, every 24-hour cycle, your body naturally produces a spike in cortisol shortly after you wake up. This spike, known as the cortisol awakening response, is your body's way of saying it's time to rise, alert, and take on the day. It's not something you manufacture with effort. It's built into your biology. But how you support or sabotage that spike determines everything about how your energy unfolds in the hours ahead. If you support this cortisol rhythm by doing the right things, getting sunlight exposure in the first 30 to 60 minutes, drinking water, and engaging in light movement, you reinforce your body's natural clock. You lock in your alertness, enhance your cognitive function, and set the stage for stable energy. But if you disrupt that spike by staying in bed scrolling on your phone, staying indoors away from light, consuming caffeine immediately, or skipping movement, you confuse your circadian system. That confusion leads to a sluggish morning, inconsistent energy throughout the day, and poor sleep at night. That's why understanding cortisol's rhythm is not just about stress management. It's about energy management. It's about mastery. This hormone sets off a cascade of other physiological systems. It influences blood sugar, immune readiness, and even mental clarity. When timed correctly, it acts like a built-in stimulant, helping you focus, work, and even feel motivated. But when mistimed, it can backfire. For example, if you stay in artificial light all day and get your biggest light exposure in the evening, like most people do, you delay your cortisol spike for the next morning. That delay throws off your internal clock and leads to brain fog and fatigue. It's a domino effect. Cortisol mistimed is like trying to run a marathon with your shoes untied. You're constantly tripping over your own biology. The truth is, one of the greatest tools for controlling your mood, productivity, and mental sharpness isn't in a bottle, app, or supplement. It's already inside you, firing every morning like a biological ignition switch. But most people don't even know it's there, much less how to use it. That's the power of mastering your cortisol rhythm. When you align with it, you no longer have to chase energy. Energy begins to chase you. You no longer have to force focus. It begins to flow naturally. Because your body is no longer fighting itself. It's in sync. And in that alignment, you reclaim the kind of clarity and drive that feels almost effortless. Most people think sleep is the main way the body resets. And while it's essential, they miss the powerful role that light plays in regulating nearly every major system in the body. Light is not just something we see, it's something our brain reads. It's a signal. It tells your internal clock what time it is, whether to release alertness hormones like cortisol or calming ones like melatonin, whether to be in a state of high focus or prepare for rest. Your brain doesn't know what time it is by looking at a clock. It knows by detecting light. And here's what the science shows. If you miss natural light in the morning, your brain doesn't fully wake up. It doesn't know how to properly time your energy peaks or when to start winding down. But when you get sunlight into your eyes within 30 to 60 minutes after waking, even on a cloudy day, you give your brain the single most important cue for the day: start the engines. Specialized cells in your retina, called melanopsin-containing ganglion cells, detect sunlight and send a signal to the brain's central clock, the suprachiasmatic nucleus. This clock then adjusts the timing of hormone release, temperature regulation, digestion, and more. One of the most immediate effects is the triggering of cortisol, which promotes alertness, mental clarity, and physical readiness. If you skip this natural light exposure or replace it with indoor light or screens, the signal is weak. Your brain remains in a fog. You might feel tired, unmotivated, or emotionally flat, not because something is wrong with you, but because the light input your biology needs to function properly never arrived. But it's not just about the morning. Light later in the day matters too. Too much bright light, especially blue light from screens, late in the evening tells your brain it's still daytime. That suppresses melatonin, the hormone that prepares you for sleep and pushes your circadian rhythm later. So when you finally lie down, your brain is still chemically in go mode. You toss and turn, wake up groggy, and start the next day already out of sync. Over time, this leads to a downward spiral: poor sleep, inconsistent energy, and reduced focus. You try to fix it with more caffeine, more willpower, more supplements, but the root cause remains unaddressed. Your light timing is broken. To reset your brain and body effectively, you must treat light like a drug: powerful, time-sensitive, and influential. A few minutes of bright sunlight early in the day can do more to boost your alertness, mood, and cognitive sharpness than anything else. And managing light exposure at night, dimming screens, using warm lights, or wearing blue light blockers helps your body shift into recovery mode. Sleep alone is not enough. Without the proper light cues, your sleep won't land at the right time and your circadian rhythm will drift. To truly reset your system, you must give your brain the environmental signals it evolved to follow. Your brain is an incredible pattern recognition machine capable of processing intense emotional data within milliseconds. But it is not designed to make long-term decisions in emotionally charged moments. In fact, the very structure of your nervous system works against you in those states. When you're overwhelmed by stress, anger, or even excitement, your limbic system, particularly the amygdala, takes the wheel. This part of the brain is excellent at survival, at fast reactions, and at scanning for danger, but it's not built for rational thought, problem solving, or long-range planning. That responsibility falls on the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that controls judgment, logic, and impulse control. The issue is, in states of high emotional arousal, the prefrontal cortex gets overridden. It goes quiet. This is why we say things we don't mean, send messages we regret, or make decisions that later feel completely out of alignment with our values. The 24-hour emotional filter is a neuroscience-backed rule that gives your brain the time it needs to return to balance. When you feel emotionally triggered, the instinct is to act, to respond, to argue, to fix. But this urge is chemical, not rational. If you give yourself a full circadian cycle, 24 hours, before responding to a charged situation, you allow your brain to complete a full reset. Hormones like cortisol and adrenaline normalize, neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine rebalance, and your prefrontal cortex comes back online. It's not weakness to wait. It's wisdom. Because waiting doesn't mean ignoring. It means observing. During this pause, your awareness increases. Your perception changes. What felt urgent or infuriating yesterday may feel manageable or even irrelevant today. This rule is not just about avoiding mistakes, it's about emotional training. Every time you wait 24 hours before reacting to a trigger, you strengthen the neural circuits of patience, discernment, and regulation. You teach your nervous system that discomfort does not require immediate reaction. You become more resilient, more in control, and more attuned to what truly matters. And over time, that emotional filter becomes internalized. You no longer feel the same pull to react impulsively. You pause naturally, you assess clearly. This kind of inner strength isn't built through motivation. It's built through repetition, through applying the 24-hour rule every time your system is flooded. In relationships, this rule is transformative. It can prevent unnecessary conflicts, broken trust, and regret. In your personal goals, it can keep you aligned with your bigger vision instead of chasing temporary emotional relief. And in decision making, it keeps your standards high and your reactions low. Your emotions are not your enemy, they are data. But they are incomplete data in the moment they arise. You need space to sort signal from noise, reaction from reality. That space is time. And 24 hours is often all it takes to regain the clarity that emotion tries to cloud. Human beings are biologically wired to adapt, but what most people don't understand is that this adaptation doesn't happen in the moment of stress, challenge, or training. It happens in the 24 hours that follow. Whether you're learning a new skill, building muscle, healing from emotional pain, or rewiring your mindset, your body and brain respond not during the effort, but in the recovery. That recovery window is tightly tied to your circadian rhythm, the internal 24-hour clock that governs everything from your sleep to hormone levels to cellular repair. If you want to grow stronger, sharper, more disciplined, or more resilient, you must honor the cycle that your biology demands. This is where the 24-hour rule of adaptation becomes a game changer. When you expose your system to a form of stress, whether it's a workout, deep cognitive focus, fasting, or a difficult conversation, your body interprets it as a disruption. In response, it begins a process called homeostatic resetting, a period where systems recalibrate to return to balance, ideally at a slightly higher level of function. But this recalibration only occurs if you give your body the correct signals afterward. That means sleep, hydration, nutrient intake, and most importantly, consistency across each 24-hour window. Without these ingredients, the stress doesn't lead to growth, it leads to breakdown. That's why people who overtrain, overwork, or overthink without daily regulation burn out, plateau, or collapse. They are skipping the adaptation window their biology needs to evolve. The brain is no different. When you engage in intense learning or focus, your neurons activate in specific circuits. But those circuits only become stronger, a process called long-term potentiation, after you rest, especially during deep sleep that night. Memory consolidation, emotional processing, and insight all happen not during effort, but in the hours that follow. If you stack challenge on top of challenge day after day without honoring the 24-hour reset, you don't become better, you become overstimulated and dull. You lose clarity. Your system starts to rebel, but when you begin to see each 24-hour cycle as a complete training loop, challenge followed by restoration, you align with the way your biology is meant to function. Progress becomes sustainable, not exhausting. This principle applies to habits as well. You don't need to be perfect every day. What matters is that every 24-hour cycle includes a signal that says, I'm still moving forward. That might mean a 10-minute walk instead of a full workout, or one-page read instead of a whole chapter. The point is consistency across the cycle. That daily signal, even when small, triggers adaptation far more effectively than sporadic intensity. The body is not impressed by how hard you push once. It adapts based on how regularly you send the right signals over time. That's the essence of biological intelligence, small daily inputs compounding through 24-hour loops. When you stop living randomly and start living rhythmically, your mind and body begin to build capacity, not just survive. That's where transformation lives, not in grand gestures, but in daily adaptive alignment with your own biology. In the end, the most powerful changes in your brain, your body, and your life don't come from massive overnight transformation. They come from consistent, intentional alignment with your biology one day at a time. Your nervous system, your hormones, your emotional patterns, your motivation, all of them are running on a 24-hour loop. Every single day, your system gives you a fresh opportunity to rewire focus, discipline, energy, and resilience. But the choice is yours. Will you live by default or by design? You now understand that your mornings are not random. They're your neurological launch pad. That dopamine can either be hijacked by distraction or harnessed by purpose. that your emotions are not commands. They're data that need time to settle before you respond. That light movement, recovery, and rhythm are the real performance tools, not hacks, but biological non-negotiables. And that adaptation, the true progress you're seeking, happens only when you respect the body's daily reset cycle. The 24 OUR are not suggestions. They're built-in systems. You're already living by them, whether you know it or not. The only difference between high performance and constant burnout is whether you're using these rules to your advantage or ignoring them until they work against you. Real transformation isn't about doing more. It's about doing the right things at the right time every 24 hours. Start today. Not tomorrow, not next week. This cycle is your opportunity. Use it wisely, and you won't just change your schedule. You'll change your state, your mind, and your future.